Hello everyone and welcome to the Money and Medals Network Coin Talk. Today I have the pleasure of introducing Professor Clare Rowan from the Department of Classics and Ancient History at the University of Warwick, who's back for a second time today to talk about engaging school groups with numismatic collections. Clare's current research focuses on tokens in the Roman world, and she also teaches ancient numismatics at both the undergraduate and postgraduate levels. She is the new chair of the Money and Medals Network and also the editor of The Chronicle, and is deeply committed to sharing a love of coins more widely and working with schools and organizations to develop resources that bring ancient numismatics to life. Now, as usual, if you have any questions throughout the talk, please post them in the chat, and Claire and I will go through them together at the end. And if for some weird reason the chat's not working for you, you can also send your questions through to me at mmn@warwick.ac.uk. I will post that email in the chat, and I will also keep an eye on my inbox. So with that out of the way, I'll pass you over to Claire.
Thanks, Campbell. I just thought this is something that the MMN network hasn't really kind of ventured into yet. So I thought it would be an interesting topic to kind of present on, to see if this is something that we should develop in the network further. So I thought I would just start by kind of giving some context as to why I'm giving a talk on this topic. And so essentially from my context, working at the University of Warwick, you may or may not have heard of something called REF 2029, which is a government assessment exercise where universities are kind of assessed on their research, but also on the impact of their research and how it kind of changes people's lives in the community, in museums, in schools, and things like that. So I've been working a lot with school teachers, mostly at A level, to kind of think about how research and collections that are going on in numismatics can be adopted by them in the classroom. And in doing that, actually, it's been a really wonderful back and forth with them, because one thing I love about teachers is they will be completely honest with you about what they want and what is needed. So I've been doing that for a couple of years now for this government assessment exercise, so I can ignore the terrible governmental context, but it is kind of really interesting and meaningful work. And the department here at Warwick also runs a school outreach program called the Warwick Classics Network. So we've been working with different ages and school groups for many years now. So we have kind of gathered kind of like a lot of, let's say, hard-earned insight into sort of how to make engagement with school groups kind of meaningful, useful for teachers, and how to sort of ensure that there's a large uptake. I'm not at a museum, although we do have an antiquities collection here at Warwick that we use. So it's kind of like a small teaching collection museum. But hopefully what I've learnt in my own context is transferable across to those of you who are working in other heritage institutions. So my kind of like knowledge, and it may seem obvious, so apologies if it is, but it wasn't obvious to me when I started this type of work. From a teacher's perspective, they're all quite stressed and working a lot of hours, as are we all. So what a way to kind of link to sort of make an activity or a coin or something really engaging and meaningful is if you link it to the syllabus that they have to teach. And what I also kind of discovered working with schools is that some schools can come to you, and that's great. But a lot of schools find that it's impossible to get all the students out of class to come for a museum visit, or to even, they may not have the resources actually to hire a bus and come and see you. So what I kind of did in response to that is I started going out to them, and in a sense, so I had to travel, which was fine. There's just one of me and 200 of them, so that kind of makes sense. But then I could kind of make it a whole day where I didn't just see one class. I went through various year groups and different groups, and quite often the teachers would advertise the event to neighbouring schools, and you could be, some schools I visited, I did like 1,000 students in one day. So you can kind of make it a big event, actually, if you go out to the schools. I'm lucky in that, the University of Warwick lets us take out some coins into schools. which may not be possible in a museum, but I will kind of show you some resources we've also developed where you don't necessarily need to be taking out the actual collection, if that's something that is strictly verboten at your institution. The interesting thing with coins, actually, and numismatic material, is that a lot of teachers they don't have confidence with the material, because I mean we're all trained in numismatics probably here, and but I think we forget how rare a skill and how rare the knowledge actually is. So my sort of approach is to always go and absolutely assume no prior knowledge on the teacher's behalf as well, and really about kind of explaining everything that they need to know so that they have confidence to be able to implement things into the syllabus going forward. Teachers also love a resource, whether that's a handout or a video or something like that. They're hungry for them, so that's also something I took along, or I've taken on board. Another kind of a need for teachers at the moment, actually, so the syllabus is kind of centrally set and they have to teach whatever topics were decided in whatever year. And it is quite apparent that in the modern day, a lot of these syllabuses that they have to teach are very male-centric, elite-focused. And so there's always, I think, a desire that if you can't match something that you find on a syllabus, to say, actually, but in this area, I could show you a female perspective, I can show you a working class perspective, I can show you what daily life was like. Diversifying the curriculum is something they're really interested in as well, so that they make sure then their students get kind of, it's not just the elite perspective. Another thing I found to be very popular is craft activities and creativity, even at A-level, believe it or not. So if you're kind of thinking about approaches and things to do, that's also a great one. I'll show you some chocolate coins later on, eternally popular as a activity. But so essentially that's also something that's always very, very popular. And another way you can kind of bring things to teachers is to kind of think about how you might add, particularly through numismatics, pictures and kind of objects to the things they have to teach. So in the ancient world, the syllabus does actually include quite a bit of material culture and even has some coins on it that they have to teach. But I know in modern history, for example, there's very little material culture at all, apparently, that's covered in the syllabus. So if you can say, well, I have some coins from the period that you're studying, because what the teachers have said to me is that, in today's modern world, of course, like students are very visually driven. And so if they have to read, well, the example I was given is they have to read Thucydides' funeral oration, it can be quite slow going. And so being able to pick out artifacts or coins or images from coins that kind of illustrate concepts or ideas being taught is also a really, really sort of popular thing to do, I've discovered. In England, where I'm based, I know different countries in the UK have different syllabi, but in England, there are specific coins on the syllabus that teachers have to teach. So there are two, so in the ancient world, there are two sort of exams or syllabi that teachers can take. One is classical civilization, and the other syllabus they might be teaching is ancient history. And the company that kind of releases and controls this syllabus is called OCR. So if you Google, for instance, OCR, ancient history, the specs will come up. And they have to teach, as I mentioned, particular coins, which is like gold for us. Since we're like, yes, let us create resources about the coins that you have to teach. Let us kind of show you, if we have them in the collection, coins that you have to teach so the students can actually see the coins. And not just photographs of them. So I've just put two examples here. So the one in the box, and I hope you can see that, is from one of the modules that is on the A-level syllabus. It's called the Imperial Image. So basically it's the age of Augustus, and you see the things that they have to learn in terms of material culture. So the Areopagus, the Prima Porta statue of Augustus. But you also see here like the coins that they have to learn as well. Interestingly, they're all gold coins. I was like, wow, elite. And I did I finally found someone who'd worked on the syllabus. It's like, why are they all gold coins? Like, what's with that? And he just thought they were nice images. So don't read too deeply into the choices. But that also kind of opens up the opportunity, if you don't happen to have the aureus. And I think one of the aureae, there's only like one known specimen in the world that's in the British Museum, so none of us have that. But then you can kind of engage with teachers and students by saying, okay, you're studying all these gold coins for your test, but what about the bronze coins? What's happening on them? It's very different. And that way, kind of diversifying the curriculum that way. The other example I've put up is from another module that they have to teach or can choose to teach on Macedon, and it's a gold coin of Philip. Again, you see how rare they are, the porous medallion. I mean, so that's sitting in the British Museum, but never mind. And sort of Alexander style coins. So yeah, these are all freely available to read. So you can just, as I mentioned, Google the syllabus and have a look at what they have to learn and what the themes are. And then, look in your own collection, have a think in your own collection about what would work and things that are, when you can say to a teacher, oh, it was connected to what you're teaching on this particular subject, they'll snap it right up. Like, oh, great, amazing. That's really what they're looking for in my experience. So yeah, we've kind of taken a variety of approaches with engaging with schools, and I was just going to go through and kind of chat about each one. So a very easy way to engage school groups with your collection is through videos, and we've got quite a lot of videos up now on our YouTube channel, and surprisingly, they are watched actually, because you think, oh, he's going to watch this video, like, but now I meet people who come to open days at work and they're like, you're the woman from the videos, our teacher tells us to watch them. I was like, yes, hello. More fame than my colleague Michael Scott, perhaps, we'll see. I was shocked actually to discover this. So in making videos, the things that we've learned and the things that teachers have told us that they're looking for are that they should be short. And okay, look, it's very easy for me to sit here and say it should be 5 to 10 minutes long. I've never managed to make a 5-minute video yet, but that is the ideal to which I still aim. And so what teachers in that sense do, and I know I've seen this sort of live in the classroom, they say, go home and watch this video, of the coins of Augustus and then come back. So you could make videos that sort of showcase your collection. And the good thing about the videos too is that, if there's something that's not in your collection, but like you want to mention, you can also just include a picture of that as well. And so these are sort of videos that are focused on the syllabus, so teachers can kind of assign them. And then what I normally do is there's a link in the YouTube channel or somewhere else saying, oh, if you would also like the PowerPoint as a resource, because they love resources, here it is if you want to download it. So I'm happy to do that. Your museum or institution might have different rules about what happens with your images, but that's kind of what happens. And yeah, so I know they are kind of quite widely watched, which is great. And so that increases, obviously, if you can kind of get that going, the kind of knowledge of your institution, right? And if you're in a small museum or something, you let everyone know you exist. So yeah. And the comments can be interesting. I just put a sample here. Glad that someone found me the night before their exam. Not the true purpose of these videos, but like, we're here for all needs. But yes, that's kind of, particularly in the UK, this is a very sort of very kind of powerful and easy way, in a sense, to provide outreach with school groups in a very easy way. So yeah, the other option obviously is handling sessions. And yeah, you may or may not have coins in your collection relevant to the syllabus. And you may or may not be able to take those coins out into schools or have the schools come in. But it's kind of they really love handling coins, the students. And everyone's like, oh, this is such a special opportunity. So if you can kind of get it set up, there's enormous demand for it, I will say. So I travel all over the country, in fact, like to Manchester and Scotland and places like that. And it's because the schools are saying, can you come? Like, our local museum doesn't offer it. Can you come? Our local museum doesn't offer it. So I think if you did manage to kind of do that, there hopefully would be a reaction. So because we're doing this for a government assessment exercise, I have to give out surveys at every event I do. I'll be glad when that is over. So we do have all the student reactions, and I thought it would be useful just to kind of point out the most common like reactions that we get from students when I say, okay, what did you learn from this event? You know, what was surprising to you? And from handling sessions, really, their takeaway absolute shock is how small coins are, because they see them in textbooks or in PowerPoints, and they have this vision that, you know, I don't know, that they're enormous or something, I guess. And you turn up with like a small Roman silver denarius, and they're like, it's so small. Wow, we had no idea. So even if you can't, you know, use direct handling in your collection, that's kind of a theme that you could build on, that the students really kind of connect to. For Greek coins, they're always amazed at how kind of thick and heavy they are, like chunky. So the materiality is an interesting thing that they engage with. So one of the coins that we have in our collection is a Mark Antony denarius, which we just happen to have. When I say to them that this coin is slightly debased, so it's not pure silver, they can't, like, it's their minds are blown. So I've called this the super mind-blowing coins, which I just took along. It's not on the syllabus, this coin. I just take it along because we happen to have it in the collection. And oh, Mark Antony, they'll know who he is. Close enough to Augustus. But when I explain there's slightly less silver in this coin, like, that is like the one thing they're like, oh my God, like, which was surprising to me. I didn't think this would be, you know, the hit of the season, so to speak. But it is. So things about, devaluation and tinkering with currency clearly really speak to students. And if you don't know what the Mark Antony denarius is, so Mark Antony, just before the Battle of Actium, he tinkers a little bit with the silver. It's like something like, not that, it's still relatively pure actually, but not as pure as other silver coins of this period. But the students really find it fascinating. And because this coin is slightly debased, Gresham's law came into effect with it actually. So these coins circulate for hundreds of years because everyone knows they're a little bit debased, and they're like, oof, we don't really want to hoard them. And so it's good it's good to show economic law as well. And as you can see, they end up being quite beaten up, like our example, and worn. But it's not the imagery, or you think, oh, the Legion, maybe they would like some legionary standards. No, it's the debasement. That is the true mind-blowing thing. Yeah, and length of circulation is something the students always react to quite a lot as well. When I say a coin might have circulated for 200 years and you have coins of different rulers, that's something I think in the classroom that they don't really kind of consider. They just have to learn the coin and then move on. So my speciality is Roman coins. And so when I talk about how designs were changed all the time in the Roman world, they really find that fascinating as well. And the two things they always kind of want to know, or they find very interesting, is how coins were made in antiquity. And again, if you're sort of an expert or someone working with coins all the time, you may not think that this is a particularly mind-blowing phenomenon, but they really do, appreciate learning that. And that's also something that we get a lot of feedback on about. That was really, really interesting, how coins were made. If it's possible, and it's not always possible, given our records, it's also good to kind of think about, I always get asked, well, what can you buy for a denarius? What can you buy for a gold coin? So I do my best to try and answer that, although I think if anyone works on the ancient world here, it's a complicated question. The other thing I've kind of learnt in working with schools over the years and teachers is the most effective approaches have been to take like a coin and like spend a lot of time on it and tell the story of it. That seems to be much more successful than trying to say, oh, you're coming for a handling session, I'm going to give you a lot of coins. So you can see, as much as possible, because that's what I would want. But yeah, just communicating a particular coin and its story and everything that's going on behind it, I've learned is the best approach. So the Mark Antony denarius, we talk about the context of production and that it's odd that it doesn't have a portrait on it, and that it's slightly debased, and then it like outlasts Augustus's coins because it is debased. Marcus Aurelius comes along and like makes a restoration issue of it. But yeah, there's a whole story there. And the other kind of coin that's been successful in that regard is this one, which you may or may not recognize. It's a bronze coin from Nemausus or Nimes, struck under Augustus. So this is not on the syllabus, I would say. This is kind of an added extra that I was like, why are we only studying gold coins? Let's put some bronze in the situation. And so some teachers attended events, and I spent a long time explaining like what each kind of piece of iconography meant, what the legends meant. And we had some replicas, actually, which we didn't make ourselves. We just bought them. They were available from a company for £4 each or something, which I realize in a museum context, even £4 is a lot. But because this is for a government research exercise, we had some funds. And I was like, I might as well give it to the teachers. So we sent them off with like a little replica of the coin. And so the teachers have said to me, actually, that was great, and they've had the replicas. So they've implemented that into their classrooms quite well, because they've got the story, and I think also because it has like a crocodile, something attractive about that to people. And they've written back to me and said, actually, already students are mentioning this in their exams and in class, like it's really having an effect on them. So I think that's another kind of way to think about, like what would be kind of effective in terms of engaging with school groups. So with this coin, because they are studying Augustus, and part of the syllabus does talk about the role of Augustus's general Agrippa, I'm like, well, here's Agrippa on the coin, so he can see visually manifested the things that you've read about in the text that you had to read, so that's kind of effective. And on this particular example, Agrippa has like a rostral crown saying he's like a naval victor, and Augustus is bareheaded, which I always find odd. I'm like, what's going on there? So, I mean, I just draw attention to that fact. I talk about the legend that, Augustus is called the son of a god because that's part of the curriculum that they have to learn. So here it is on a coin. He wasn't just called son of a god. We find it on material culture. And then we talk about, the crocodile on the coin and how that references the capture of Egypt. Why isn't Cleopatra shown? Why isn't Mark Antony referenced? Why aren't they talking about a civil war? And these coins were essentially struck in a settlement where the veterans who had fought in these campaigns went and settled. So, if you're a veteran who had served in Egypt under Augustus, and you're given this coin, what sort of memories would it evoke? What sort of, would you connect with it? And things like that. And so it's clear these coins then went to pay the army, so they can kind of work in that as well. So we were doing quite a few handling sessions. As I said, there was like enormous demand, and I was like, I am one person. I can't go all over the country every week. So we were thinking, I began thinking about how do you scale a coin handling experience? Because teachers always said to me, oh, it was really wonderful. We really enjoyed it. What a special one-off event. And then it would never dare to ask me to come back. Though some were bolder, and I did, of course, go back. So I was kind of thinking about teachers saying that to me and saying, it would, it was so nice, but, we can't replicate it. So that's kind of what we began to think about, like, how can you scale it? And so, as I say, we started giving out replicas to some teachers. So if I went to a school, I would leave a replica or two. And again, we just bought these off the internet. So a denarius, and these were both replicas of coins that the students had to study. On the syllabus, which conveniently, there were replicas available for £2 or £3. Well, also, I mean, if you are in a museum and your museum allows it, you could create your own replicas and leave those with the teachers. That would be even better. But we didn't have either of these coins in our collection. So it was just convenient that we had, that we could buy some cheaply to leave with them. Yeah, but obviously one of the teachers said to me, at an event, they're like, my absolute ideal and what would be the most amazing thing ever as a teacher is if we got a box of replicas of the coins that we had to teach. And, wouldn't it be amazing if that was the case? And I was like, that would be amazing. I wonder how we can do that. So I was leaving these replicas about the place. And there's an amazing thing with teachers is if you leave something with them, they will have ideas and tell you about them. So having left these replicas, two different schools kind of went to work on them and sort of gave me ideas back. So one of the teachers came to an event at Warwick. This is Sean Squire, who works at classical civilization at Shrewsbury College. She's an amazing teacher. Sing her praises a lot. So she came to a workshop at Warwick where we were talking about, how to teach with coins, and we happened to have some fake coin molds about, and I was like, oh, I'll put that in. And in my mind I was just like, oh, this is another like nice thing to show them as like what an artifact is. And she was kind of really taken with them, and I left these replica coins with her when I went out to visit the students, and she's like, I am so inspired by Roman coin fake molds that I'm going to make my own. And so she just got some plasticine or something, I believe. There's a whole like how-to on that website link I've put there. You can read step by step how this happens if you would like to replicate it. And she just took our replica and then made a mold out of it, which she then used to pour chocolate into, and made chocolate coins, which the students loved. She then gave them out to parents at parent-teacher evening, which was nice for her. And then she was saying to me, this is great, but some of my students are experimenting with 3D coins that have been scanned on 3D and printing them, and they're enlarging them. So she's like, it would be really good too if we had some enlarged coins, which was interesting. And that's, most teachers do want that, because I said, well, the students find coins so small, and so surely we need to continue with that kind of point of discovery. But most teachers I spoke to wanted some enlargements of coins, which is actually, I think, if you're thinking about creating replicas or imitations or whatever, I think my experience too in working with museums is an enlarged coin is less likely to raise eyebrows, because you can't really use it to make fakes, because you're making something this big. It's clearly not meant to be a fake or can't be used to make fakes, which could be, I think, an anxiety. So they were 3D printing coins and saying, well, we would like, why don't you get into that, Claire? I'm like, and one of the other, actually at a neighboring school in the same region, they kind of, had a scan even of the replica, and then their science lab printed some silicon molds, which they also made chocolate coins out of. And there in the picture, I was presented with a box of chocolate coins, which was very nice, very tasty, in fact. But that's the kind of, as I was saying, craft activities that really get sort of students going. I think chocolate coins is a no-brainer, actually. And as I say, if you're kind of interested in doing something like that, the how-to is there. So it's a very fun event. So yeah, having been told we should get into 3D scanning, and wouldn't it be nice? And thinking about, like, how do you scale? Like, I can't even be running around giving replicas to all schools, can you? So where do we go from there? So then we moved, we did go into 3D scanning, which brought its own challenges, I have to say. I kind of thought, well, this is a bit of a no-brainer. If I turn up to a museum and say, I am here with a team from Warwick and we will scan your coins for free, that people would leap at it. And the education teams were like, yes, thank God you have arrived. But I did come to find that the trustees of particular museums and boards and etc. were less than enthusiastic about the idea of having their coins scanned. And it remains a bit of an issue to this day. So you may have guessed I am Australian. And I spent quite a bit of time in Australia, and I was down there talking about this kind of very bizarre challenge. And I know some of the curators at the Chow Chak Wing Museum in Sydney, and the Australian Centre for Ancient Numismatic Studies, and they were like, we have no issues whatsoever with you scanning our coins, please. They don't belong to us. They're like, 2,000 years old. The copyright has expired. So we scanned from their collection. We did scan some coins. And here I was inspired by something that took place at the Ashmolean under Courtney Nomura for their Celtic coin project. They had scanned it was a Bury stater, and put it up onto Sketchfab, which is this platform where you can host 3D models, and they kind of annotated it actually, so it becomes a learning tool. So our Sketchfab account is there if you want to go and have a look at it, even live as we're having this chat. So we started we were kind of restricted in a sense to what was at both of these collections in Australia, which was relevant to Augustus. And I didn't check every coin before I got it scanned because I was only in Sydney for a limited amount of time, and it wasn't possible to get the coins out the day I was there, so I randomly made some selections. And you'll see on the Sketchfab that had I seen some of the coins, I probably wouldn't have scanned them because they're very worn. But I think that's also kind of fun to have very worn, beaten up coins so students can see what they look like. And so with each coin, you can kind of rotate it and you can learn about each of the features. So it's kind of, in a sense, a virtual handling experience where, we may not be able to kind of take coins into every school or even leave replicas, but here this is accessible to everyone worldwide, actually, including, I was thinking in particular schools in Australia, a lot of them in very rural locations, and so here's something live that they can use and kind of get a little bit of the sense of materiality. And I had never used Sketchfab before, I will tell you that. And so it probably took me about a day to master on my own, and I'm not that tech savvy. So it wasn't too hard in the end. So you can get a free account on Sketchfab. There is like a maximum upload limit with it. So if you have really large files, which normally for coins, you should not, you have to get a paid account. But for most coin scans, I've found the free account is fine. So we kind of uploaded those as resources, and so now we're trying to see how these are being picked up in schools. So this is kind of more recent activity, so we're still kind of assessing how effective that is. And then I thought, well, we have some stuff in the Warwick teaching collection, which would be interesting to scan. And that was, we had some Roman lead tokens, and being lead, of course, no one can handle them, really. I can't take lead into a school. And so I thought it would be really interesting to get those up, because actually these are things that people are never going to see. So I recently, working with Warwick Manufacturing Group, there's like a lab here, took 2 of our lead tokens across to scan, which was amazing. Actually, they have some fancy machine over there, and I know I'm blessed to have such a machine. But the Warwick Manufacturing Group, the people doing it, their job is to get this kind of scanning up and running and to use the machine. And, if you're kind of close to Warwick, we are very willing to come with the machine and scan things. And, because it's just interesting to see how it works. They're kind of really cool people. So keep that in mind. Within a day, we have to make it back there and back in a day. I was trying to suggest to them to go to Scotland, and they're like, it's a bit far. I was like, but with the lead tokens, this is something that normally people don't get to handle. And so I chose to scan 2 lead tokens that were issued by women, because I think that's kind of speaking to this idea of diversifying the curriculum and kind of bringing women into history. So you can see those up there as well. This one with the great Flavian hairstyle, which I thought, students might enjoy that as well. And then having kind of scanned these coins and tokens, we kind of then, picking up on what the teachers wanted, started thinking about maybe we can make them a box of coins that are not on the syllabus, because, as I say, scanning and the permissions associated with scanning was much more difficult than I anticipated. But nonetheless, we had some coins scanned relevant to the syllabus, if not on the syllabus. And we started thinking about, okay, how can we can we use this to make replicas or kind of enlargements for schools? And then also, could schools print their own? If we have the files up there, any school could be able to download it and print their own. A lot of schools these days, and I have to say, I was surprised. If you're working in the heritage sector, you might also be surprised, because generally we have no money. But a lot of schools do have 3D printers and scanners, and like a STEM part of the school, obviously. And what the teachers who have been kind of using these files have said to me is that it's great because you can combine STEM and coins. And the people I was working with to kind of get this done, because I'm not that tech person, they didn't really care about ancient coins. But they were really fascinated in the process of the scanning and the files and the tech stuff. And so I came to realize too that if you have this sort of element, people who are really interested in 3D scanning and tech are like, oh, and you get them in that way. You're like, oh, and now that you've read this interesting technical situation, let me tell you about this coin. So you kind of can win two groups that way as well. So yeah, as I say, I was working with Warwick Manufacturing Group, and I was also working with a colleague in design studies here at Warwick called Rohit. Yeah, Lucy just pointed the tech behind coin scanning is a real challenge, actually. So on our Sketchfab, actually, we have some photogrammetry. That's the stuff from Sydney is photogrammetry. And the two tokens that have been scanned were done with laser scanning, but we didn't get the colors. That will just scan the shape of the object and not the actual colors. So I've just played with Sketchfab to make our tokens look a wee bit leadish and a little bit metally, but I do admit that is not their true color. They're much more faded than that. So yeah, we started 3D printing, and this is what the 3D print, yeah, which was quite interesting, because we're like, all these technical decisions about, do you want to have, and I was like, well, I'm cheap, so let's make it hollow. Yeah, so we actually just got this off the Darik. It's a Persian coin. We just took it off Sketchfab and printed it as a test. So there are files available, actually, where you can just start printing your own coins. And then we started printing like different sizes. This is also something we found off Sketchfab, which is like a Roman denarius. And so we started printing it in different sizes to see. I would also say, like, a really big enlargement, as well as working with schools, it's really good for handling in the museum or in an exhibition, because coins are quite small and perhaps a little bit hard to display in an engaging fashion. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting association with those as well. So yeah, and I've just got a picture of, they get printed all at once, which was kind of amazing. I was like, oh, it's like some sort of mold situation, but not really. Yeah, so we started 3D printing these coins and experimenting with different types of material. And so the takeaway with that is plastic gives you the shininess that you see on the Darik. And these kind of more, let's say, grayish things, we printed with material that had metal in it. So it's a bit plastic, it's a bit metal. So we were seeing if maybe that would have a different effect. I personally still prefer the shiny ones, but yeah, I guess the duller ones are more true to the natural material. So yeah, we have made a few coin boxes, in fact, finally at the end. And I have to say, I really have to say hats off to my colleague from Design Studies, Rohit. I would have put these 3D replicas in an envelope and just posted them to the teachers and been like, here you go, as requested. And he's like, no, Claire, it needs to be an experience. I was like, oh. So he's come up with this box. And he's like, and we need to brand it. I'm like, oh, branding. and so fine. And so what we've ended up with is, it really is like a coin handling box, and he's got all the files. He 3D, okay, so he laser cut the wood and 3D printed everything down to the hinges and everything. So we're hoping to get those files up online for people to use freely at some point when he stops making boxes for me. And what you want in a true design studies person is a little bit of perfection. So he's like, I'm just going to sand the box, there's no rough edges, etc., etc. And so yes, teachers are going to get this box, they open it, and they've got kind of life-size coins, not life-size, sorry, enlarged coins in there. So there's a booklet which has all the information about each coin. It's the same information that you find on the Sketchfab account, actually, because they're the same coins, and a QR code to the Sketchfab account, and a kind of discussion about each museum that the coins came from, and various copyright informations about that. And then they get it's a plastic cover that you can lift off. It's kind of hard doing this live. And then you've got all the coins in there, and when you pick up the coin, beneath it, there's a description, but also a picture of what the life-size coin looks like, because I really didn't want to lose this idea that these are small objects, so they can see what the true size of the coin is, and then they can pick it up. And so the first box I've sent out, the teacher was like, oh my God, the size of the chocolate coins I can make with this. So I think this is what we're going to get. But yeah, it is then an experience. And we included the different types of metals in it. So some are like the shiny plastic, some are the actual metal kind of duller things. This is an Athenian tetradrachm. And we included even a pierced coin, and that came out really nicely, actually. I wondered how that would work, but it did work. And so they have this kind of experience that makes it a bit special. And if you're kind of thinking for your own museums or whatever, like, just put this in the gift shop, my friends, with your logo on it. And yeah, so I innocently put a picture on social media on Blue Sky about this. And I was like, oh, the first box is off to the school. How nice. And I have just been inundated with requests ever since, like enormous demand. Where can I buy it? I'm like, oh, I didn't intend to make a business. So we're kind of struggling with that and what to do with that. But I'm just saying there is an enormous demand for something like that out here. And they're like, oh, can you do a Julius Caesar one? Can you do this one? And I was like, oh my God. So yeah, we are now working to see, as I say, to have the files up online in a way that everyone can replicate this. But I do then need to go back to the museums and finalize what the copyright will be, because we had permission to kind of use them in the way we have. But I think having it up there for everyone to print their own box is a different copyright. But I think they will hopefully be open to it, because their kind of approach to their collection is the more people who use it, the better, please. So that's where we're kind of going with that. And in the booklets, we have information about the coins, but we also had information about the kind of technology and approach that we used. There you go. So that those who, as I say, are more techie, or if teachers want to combine STEM and humanities, they can. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what to do with the demand about this. That's a future job to deal with. So that's kind of been my experience of it. But I just thought I'd end by sharing a few other examples of really good practice that you might look at for inspiration. So one, and I've put the link up there, a PDF, is a series of activities that took place basically up in the north of England, in the Northwest collections. So you can download that and have a look. And they've basically created sort of, for teachers for different parts of the syllabus, what you can use in terms of numismatic evidence. So if you're looking for something that's not ancient, they've already done all the work, and you can go through that and think, oh, okay, so this is how I could link into a different syllabus, whether that's history, the up in the north as well, at the Harris, actually, they created another very interesting project with schools working with the Debt Advice Foundation, and they made like a money diary talking about budgeting and debt issues in 1815 and in 2015. And the school's got a handling collection of old pennies and half pennies to kind of use alongside this resource. So again, there was this very interesting handling element. So that's also in that PDF I put the link up to. The Royal Mint Museum also has kind of a lot of school stuff on there that you can have a look at for inspiration about things you might want to implement or adapt or be inspired from in your own museums. If you're looking for more 3D scanning, Rubina Raja, who's an archaeologist who works up in, I want to say Scandinavia, Copenhagen, they did some scanning of Palmyrene tokens. So these are clay tokens that were used in the city of Palmyra, which obviously is now being largely destroyed, which were little tickets for banquets issued by priests. So she's got freely available scans up there for use under a Creative Commons license. And so what she did actually when she was in the UK, I'm happy to send the slides. When she was in the UK, she printed out a whole bunch of like these banqueting tickets, and then she held a banquet in Oxford, and handed them all out. And this was the entry tickets to your banquet. So, museum donors, etc., would be a very nice, thing. But it was interesting because there was also a bit of experimental archaeology. So she handed them all out, and then she collected them all in, and then some of the tokens were missing, the tickets, which is exactly probably what happened in antiquity, because people were pocketing them for mementos or whatever else, or asking for them back. So yeah, the picture I have there is just a collection of these things that she'd 3D printed and brought. So you can kind of use it in public engagement events that way. Yeah, if I have enough time to print, I think she printed like 140 of them. If I have that much time at some point, maybe I'll hold an event and give everyone numismatic tickets. So yeah, that kind of brings to the end my own kind of experience about engaging with schools. If people are doing really cool things elsewhere, I'd love to learn about them actually, and probably the Money and Medals Network would love to learn about them, because I think sharing best practice, actually, or sharing things that people have found have worked, is really, I think, kind of the way forward to make everyone's lives easier and share the love of numismatics. And as I say, if you're relatively close to Coventry and you want some coins scanned, I can do my best to appear for free with our Warwick Manufacturing Group colleagues and a laser scanner. So yeah, I'll leave it there and have time for questions.
Thanks, Claire. That was so interesting, and I found myself laughing numerous times throughout the talk. It was really great, and I love the enlarged coins. One of the really difficult things in museums is, you pin it to the wall or you lay it down in a cabinet, and you can't see it. Yeah. And I know at the Ashmolean, for instance, the enlarged Oxford crown has always been incredibly popular. So really, and the
I've seen that.
Coins, wow.
And people touching them and spinning them and stuff, like as part of the exhibition, I've always found quite fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I get on to the questions, I'm just going to post a link to our feedback form. I'd really appreciate it if everyone could fill that out. I'll also be emailing it out if you want to fill it out later.
This is for us to seek more money to continue the network. So
yeah. So please. Lucy said that the tech behind good coin scanning is a real challenge, and I agree with her. So that's what's really amazing what Warwick Manufacturing have achieved with Clare.
As I say, they have told me they might be able to apply like the color. So I took a picture of the token. So we've got like what its actual color is. And I tried, you can kind of superimpose it on top of the scan to get the color. But it looked super weird at the end. I'm like, no. And the photogrammetry, so you got the actual color of the coins, but the issue with that is it didn't get enough. If it was quite a flat coin to start with, like a Roman denarius, like it was really hard actually to 3D print. So a lot of those scans we couldn't 3D print from because the coin was just it didn't have enough differentiation in the relief. For Greek coins, no problem, because they have higher relief. So the Athenian tetradrachm was probably the easiest one to print. But some of the other ones, my colleague Rohit had to do a manual intervention to somehow make them easier to print. But the photogrammetry, unless it's a really high relief coin, is not going to give you a scan to print from, which we kind of learnt along the way as well. So yeah, maybe different techniques for different types of numismatic object.
Of course, the problem with photogrammetry as well is the reflective surfaces, because you're basically taking photos as you rotate the coin. And so you basically have to spray it with like a matte dry shampoo to try and do it in the first place. Yeah, so yeah, really amazing tech. Lucy also said that she loves that make it an experience, loves this, make it an experience. I think it's really easy to forget that when you work with the material all the time.
Yeah.
Also agree. Angela asked for for the slides. You said yes. So,
yeah, you can send it to the whole list. Yeah,
okay.
It's not a problem.
Lucy says thank you. Lars said that he's also interested in the slides. Well, we're sending them out, so that's great. Okay, Nick asks, outside of the syllabus, what coins have you found really captured students' interests?
Yeah, so we have in our collection, it's the most grotty little thing. So in Orbia, they have these dolphin coins. They're in the shape of a dolphin. We've got a half dolphin. It just looks like some sort of pointed oblong. It's not, there's nothing there. But I put it in because just to show that coins don't always have to be round, right? Like that was my point. And because I'm like, what is this? It doesn't look like a coin. I was like, well, other cultures had different shapes of coins. And so they love it all the time. And so it doesn't have to be an Orbia coin. Like China had a lot of coins in like the shape of spades and things like that. So just something that's not round. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea. So that's always been super popular. And at one school and one school only, as a special favor to this teacher who's worked with me a lot, I took out a Greek fraction, like a really, really tiny coin. And it was in a plastic container. No one was allowed to take it out of that container. My heart palpitations were high that day. I was like, oh my God. Here we go. But they their minds were blown, and that because it had like I think a scorpion and the lion head on it. It was engraved too, and it would have been like 2 millimeters across in diameter. Like that was also like they're like, but how and why and things like that. So that's also I would say a crowd pleaser, but I've never brought it out again because I'm just like I just can't I can't take the heart palpitations of bringing that offsite to a school, like never again. But yeah, and for that, because it's so small, I even wonder if 3D printing would work. Actually, that could be a challenge for my Warwick manufacturing group colleagues. They do love a challenge. So something like that would be quite interesting, I think, if we could get that printed. Actually, it was so tiny. I'm sure they probably could.
You should maybe be able to, yeah.
I'm seeing some, innovation funding coming along or something like that. They really find fascinating as well. The other thing too is every time I go to a school, like someone is collecting 50p pieces or something like that. So quite often students come up to me like, see my collection of 50 pence pieces, bless them. So, that's also kind of an interesting point of engagement. And if you're visiting a school or a school was coming, you could ask them like, does anyone, ask your class, does anyone collect coins or have a coin they want to, talk about? You'll see what comes, I guess. But yeah, those two have been really like surprisingly like, yeah. And as I say, anything Greek, I think it's the chunkiness. And also, I mean, I hate to say this as a Roman numismatist, but they are just kind of aesthetically more pleasing. So they're like, wow, I had no idea. Yeah, and I mean, it's banal to say it, but things with animals on them. We take out a Caesar coin that has an elephant on it, and that's always very popular as well. So yeah.
Okay, we've got a comment from Alice who said, we have a loan box service for schools with a focus on banknotes rather than coins, but plenty of transferable methods as food for thought here. I love that your box is branded through the use of a 3D printer. Would love it if we could do something similar.
Yeah, as I say, I could find out the precise. As I say, I was not the one who developed this. I think it was like maybe laser scanning or something on the box. So it's like just a plywood box that gets cut out. We have the kind of design for it and everything that, and then just it was etched on top. Although Warwick apparently said I should have used a different crest for this etching, but never mind. But yeah, the branding I think kind of makes it easier to sell to the powers that be that they should invest. Oh, and it'll be on there and it will be. You could, sell it. But thank you for the link. I'm definitely going to go look at this, the loan box. Yeah. I think for us too, we're going to have one of these boxes available in the department. So if schools want to borrow it, we can post it out and back to them like we do for a lot of other stuff. Actually, we've got some VR headsets and other things that we send out to schools and send back. So that's a good way to kind of, again, try and increase reach without having some poor soul trudging all over the UK.
Lucy had a comment. As an aside, lots of universities have centres that are called like digital creative hubs who are often looking for projects. So if you're not in Coventry, it might be worth Googling your local university.
Yeah, and if you use the words, it would be great for ref impact. This normally makes everyone sit up and be like, whoa, ref impact. Oh, wow. Because universities are under complete pressure to kind of produce things for this. So they're like, oh, yes, perfect. So, yeah. And as I say, a lot of the people who work in these digital hubs or in these places, like they are just generally quite geeky and are interested to see what they can do with their machines. So are normally willing to sort of do, most things actually, yeah, so have a look around, as Lucy says.
Okay, I don't see any more questions in the chat. As an aside, when Claire was talking about stories with coins, particularly with the early Roman Empire, she has a great book called From Caesar to Augustus, which is full of fantastic stories that you can use for coins. Highly rate it. Okay, well, if we've got...
I'll just end with one more thing. So my colleagues from engineering took the scans and made a mold out of it. I had no control over this. They did it. And because they were interested if they could cast things from molds. But unfortunately, they did not use the correct material for the molds. And so being the great Roman historian I am, I was like, you should try terracotta. But that's kind of, I think once the files and once the information is out there, people do all sorts of very interesting things with the data. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, Claire, for the fantastic talk, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. It's been wonderful to have you with us. Before we wrap up, I'm delighted to announce that we'll be holding an in-person training day on the 19th of February at Warwick called Engaging Diverse Audiences with Numismatic Collections. So if you come, you can join colleagues from across the sector for a lively day packed with inspiring case studies, hands-on ideas, and practical methods you can put straight into practice, whether you work with schools, families, specialist groups, or the general public. This event offers something for everyone interested in transforming how coins are used and understood, and registration is now open at our website, so that's www.warwick.ac.uk/MMN. There are also going to be some bursaries available to help cover travel costs. And looking ahead, our next Coin Talk will be on the 10th of November, featuring another returning speaker, Greg Thompson from the Ashmolean, who will be giving us part 2 of his talk on Greek coins, this time focusing on Hellenistic coinage. It promises to be a great session, so do keep an eye on MMM Communications for more details. So thank you again for joining us today, and we hope to see you at the training day or at our next Coin Talk. Thanks.
Thanks.